Hello people, this is Marcello Cecchini and I'm going to share with you how I passed my knowledge test. It was in January 2022. I passed with 97% score. I purchased this course from SPORTY'S. The price was $279 and this course has unlimited access, so contains more or less the whole range of questions, 900 plus questions that are possible to show in 60 questions of your knowledge test. My God. Okay, let's jump into it. So you go to sportys.com and you go to your trainings and you will find this test preparation. You can read the introduction and the how to use this course if you want, but I'm going to show you a really practical way to do it. Okay, so I start like this: start new study session and specific categories. This is the preferred one. You can go random, they give you 60 questions every time, but to cover 900 questions in a random 60 groups, it will take forever because you might get one question 10 times and another question maybe never. So you go to specific categories. Smart Study creates a new study session using questions from the weakest performing categories. Marked questions, incorrect questions, so the ones you missed, and question search. So we go to specific categories and next, and see question mode, flashcards. So I choose question mode because it's like the FAA test. So you go here and you can choose all of them, or you can choose individually and do one subject at a time. The first one is communications, lights and airports, 12 questions. So say for example we choose this one, we can choose the whole thing and we have here around 100 questions, one at a time. So we go one and then start, and then we have here all the questions. So the first question here is, what should you do after landing an unknown tower airport? So exit the runway and continue taxiing, and I would say exit the runway, ensure that entire airplane cross the runway, hold in position marking and make a position call. That's the one. Okay, so next. And the second one, an alternating red and green light signal directed from the control tower to an aircraft in flight is a signal to exercise extreme caution, hold position, impossible because you're flying, and not land, the airport is unsafe. So one or two, I know that this is the correct one, but say for example I made a mistake, I thought this one was the one, I can recorrect it, but I leave it wrong and I move next. And see, an airport's rotating beacon operated during daylight hours indicates the weather at the airport located in class Delta airspace is below basic VFR weather minimum. So this is the one. But I, for example, say that I click the correct one by chance, because I tried and I got it. And this is a subject that I'm not familiar with, so I mark this question and I move on. Which light signals from a control tower clears a pilot to taxi? Flashing white, I'm not sure. Flashing green, flashing white, steady green, flashing white, and I was wrong. Flashing green is the one that clears a pilot on the ground, means clear to taxi. And clear to taxi, so I made it wrong. I actually didn't do it on purpose. I had to refresh all the things. Don't tell anybody. Okay, next, and I mark this and I continue, move on. How can a military airport be identified? So dual picked two quick white flashes between green flashes, and this is the one, I know that. Okay, move on. You are on the ground and see a steady red light signal from the tower. What does indicate? So stop, you have to stop. But I repeat, it's a subject probably that I want to revisit. I mark these questions and I move on and there I'm going to get you here. So refer to figure 65, and figure 65 is here, but you don't want to do this all the time, right? So you want to enlarge, and this tab you can move it if you have a second screen. You can use it here, or otherwise you can just make this smaller and move this tab here, make it smaller. There's a kind of problem here because now you can see, but some supplements you have to read, so I don't know, I need glasses. So in this case, figure 65 says after landing the airplane is completely clear of the runway when the aircraft is completely past the solid lines of the marking at location G. So you're clear when you're past, the airplane is completely passing these two black lines over the yellow. So say we are correct and then move on. So ATIS, the information is a continuous broadcast of recorded information concerning non-control information in selected high activity terminal areas. So since I'm not familiar, I mark this one and I continue, and then okay, so we have another figure, view figure 52. And how do we vision this? So once this is open, enlarge, and this appears here. In this case I have to read, so in this case I just enlarge and reposition eventually. So traffic pattern in effect at Lincoln Municipal R. So here we have runway 18 is right traffic, runway 36 doesn't say, so it's left traffic, and we have runway 17 and 35. 17 is left and 35 is right traffic. So the question was on runway 18 and 35, so this is the correct one, but I mean I want to revisit it and mark this. Okay, move on. And airport taxi edge lights are identified night by blue omnidirectional lights, so that's the correct one. Steady green light signal directed from a tower to an aircraft in flight is a signal to clear to land. And the number 12, flashing white light signal from the control tower, don't return to the starting point. So this I made a mistake here, it was wrong. So the flashing white light is to return to starting point on the airport. So then I save and quit. I am done with this session. Save and quit. So if I want to revisit all this mark, I'm going to start a new question, and I could, if I mark the whole thing, the whole incorrect or whatever, I start a new study with marked questions. So always question mode, start, and I have other marks from prior tries. And so if I have this one of them I marked, because during daylight indicates that the weather at the airport, this one, and so unmark, I can unmark it if I want, or I can unmark it here, I can mark it here or unmark it here. So next one, this was another one. You are on the ground and see steady blah blah blah, and so this is a stop, and I can unmark it and go ahead and do in this way the whole questions that you want to revisit, or you made a mistake and you want to study more. So quit and save. Now I start a new one and specific categories, and I want to start the other one. 15 questions. This is lights and runway NTSB. So I continue and I have 15 questions about this new subject. Okay, so when you're done with the whole thing, say you completed the whole thing, right? So you completed the whole thing. you completed the whole set of questions. These are 900 questions. The whole thing is the entire range of questions that you might possibly have. The FAA facility, they might have the same questions formulated slightly differently. The whole range. When you're done with this, you continue, you go back, and you do the FAA practice test. Now, this practice test is a requisite for SPORTY'S CFIs to endorse you and to give you a certificate for you to show this at the FAA facility. You have to have an endorsement that you're ready to take this test. You will pass the FAA on the facility at 70%, but SPORTY'S required you to pass this test 80%. If you don't pass the first time, you try again. If you don't pass the second time, you try again. And when you pass, you can request. There's a button there that you click and you request a endorsement. Return to page 1, begin test. So in this case, we have here 60 questions, and we start the test. Okay, great session. Now let's see. Yes, I want to grade this, I want to pass. And 35%. See, you can review missed questions here, review all questions, new study session, you can start a new one. Save, I want to save this. If you don't pass, it doesn't show here. When you pass, it starts showing 80%, and you have to pass, I believe, 2. And when you pass 2 to 80%, you request, or at least 1, I don't remember, so it says you can take the practice test FAA as many times as you would like. We use your top 2 test scores for certification purposes. So they look at the 2 that are showing here are the 2 higher ones. If you take right now and you pass 80%, but tomorrow you pass 85%, and then the next day you pass with 95%, here they're going to show the 95 and the 85%. If you next day you pass with 75%, it's not going to show because it's lower than the 2 higher ones. So they will, when you pass over 80 or more, you will be able to request the endorsement and do the training and do all the studies, and probably you will find more ways to do it. Or if you're watching this and you've done this before, share in the comments whatever you've done that was productive for you and might be helpful for others and for me too. Thank you very much for listening and watching, and talk to you soon. Thank you.